I was a successful software engineer with what I thought was the perfect life. My marriage to Stephanie had lasted 8 wonderful years or so, I believed. The cracks started showing shortly after her big promotion. One night I found strange text messages on her phone. When confronted, she admitted cheating without remorse. She sneered, "You are too weak to leave me. Even if you did, you would go broke paying me alimony." I just nodded silently. Little did she know what was coming. If you are watching this, let me know where you are tuning in from. Hit that like button and subscribe to find out how I turned the tables on my unfaithful wife. I always worked long hours as a software engineer at a growing tech company in Seattle. My days were filled with coding, debugging, and solving complex problems that most people would find mind-numbing. But I loved it. The satisfaction of creating something from nothing kept me motivated even during the most challenging projects. It was at a tech conference in San Francisco that I first met Stephanie. She worked in marketing for a competitor company and had this confident way of speaking that immediately caught my attention. During a networking event, she approached me after hearing me speak on a panel about emerging software trends. Her insightful questions showed me she was not just beautiful but also incredibly smart. "Your perspective on user interface evolution is fascinating," she said, her blue eyes meeting mine with genuine interest. "Most engineers focus solely on functionality and forget the human element." That conversation lasted well into the evening, and by the end of the conference weekend we had exchanged numbers and made plans to meet again. Despite living in different cities, we made it work. I would fly to San Francisco one weekend, and she would come to Seattle the next. Our phone calls lasted for hours as we shared our dreams, fears, and ambitions. Our romance progressed quickly. Within 6 months, Stephanie had secured a transfer to her company's Seattle office, and we moved in together. She was unlike anyone I had ever dated. Where previous girlfriends had struggled to understand my passion for technology, Stephanie not only understood but encouraged it. She would listen to my ideas and offer marketing perspectives that often helped me see my work from different angles. 2 years after we met, I proposed during a vacation to Hawaii. The wedding was everything we had dreamed of, small but elegant with our closest friends and family present. Those first years of marriage were blissful. We developed routines and traditions that strengthened our bond. Sunday mornings were for homemade waffles and planning our week. Thursdays were date nights regardless of how busy work became. Stephanie struggled early in her Seattle position. The office culture was different, and her new boss seemed reluctant to give her important projects. I supported her through countless nights of frustration, helping her strategize ways to prove herself. When she would doubt her abilities, I reminded her of her talents and encouraged her to persist. "You are brilliant at what you do," I told her, during one particularly difficult evening after she had been passed over for a project lead. "They just have not seen it yet. Keep showing them, and they will." With our careers advancing, we decided to buy a house together in a nice neighborhood outside the city. It had a beautiful yard, and enough room for the family we planned to start in a few years. The financial commitment was significant, but we were confident in our future. We split the down payment, though I contributed more since my salary was higher at that point. Around the same time, my company offered stock options as part of my compensation package. Believing in the company's potential, I invested heavily, even using some of my savings to purchase additional shares when they were offered to employees at a discount. Stephanie thought I was taking too big a risk, but I had faith in the work we were doing. "Just trust me on this," I assured her. "In 5 years, these will be worth much more than what I am paying now." As time passed, both our careers flourished. My risk with the stock options paid off as the company grew, and my portfolio value increased substantially. Stephanie eventually found her footing at her company and began receiving the recognition she deserved. We settled into a comfortable lifestyle, taking nice vacations and enjoying the fruits of our hard work. Looking back, I should have noticed the subtle changes that began to appear in our relationship. Stephanie started working later, often coming home after I had already eaten dinner alone. She became more protective of her phone, always keeping it face down or taking it with her even for short trips to the bathroom. When I asked about these changes, she would dismiss my concerns. "The marketing department is swamped with the new product launch," she would say. "You know how it is. We all have busy periods." I did know how it was. I had my own periods of intense work, so I accepted her explanation without pushing further. I trusted her completely, never imagining that these small changes were the first warning signs of what was to come. Everything changed when Stephanie received a major promotion to marketing director at a rival tech firm. The position came with a substantial salary increase and greater responsibilities. I was genuinely happy for her. She had worked hard for years, and this recognition was well deserved. The celebration dinner I planned for her was filled with champagne and promises of an even brighter future together. With her new position came a new circle of colleagues. Suddenly our home was hosting dinner parties with executives and marketing professionals I had never met before. Stephanie seemed to transform in their presence, laughing at inside jokes I did not understand, and referencing events I had not been part of. Her behavior continued to change. The woman who once shared every detail of her day began offering only vague summaries when I asked about work. Her phone became an extension of her hand, and she would step away to take calls, speaking in hushed tones. When I approached, conversations abruptly ended. Just work stuff, she would say with a dismissive wave. Nothing you would find interesting. The business trip to New York was what truly set my suspicions on fire. Originally scheduled for 3 days, she extended it to 5, with little explanation. Her texts during this time were infrequent and lacking the warmth they once had. When I called in the evenings, I could hear voices and music in the background despite her claims of working late in her hotel room. The truth revealed itself accidentally. Stephanie had left her phone on the kitchen counter while showering before a company event. A notification appeared from someone named James, with the message, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again tonight." My hands trembled as I opened the conversation. Months of messages confirmed what I had feared. Stephanie had been having an affair with James, her new colleague, since shortly after her promotion. The messages were explicit, detailed, and worst of all, emotionally intimate. When Stephanie emerged from the bathroom, I was sitting at the kitchen table with her phone in front of me. Her expression shifted from surprise to anger in seconds. "You went through my phone," she demanded, snatching it away. "Are you having an affair with James?" I asked, my voice barely steady. What followed was not denial, but something far worse. Stephanie admitted everything, not with remorse, but with a cold calculation that stunned me. She described her relationship with James as exciting and fulfilling, in ways our marriage no longer was. She spoke of him with a passion I had not seen from her in years. "James understands ambition," she said, pacing our kitchen. "He does not just sit behind a computer all day writing code that nobody sees." The insults continued, each one cutting deeper than the last. 8 years of marriage reduced to contemptuous dismissal. Then came the statement that would echo in my mind for months. "You are too weak to leave me," she sneered, leaning across the kitchen island. "And even if you found the courage, you would go broke paying me alimony. Half your precious stock options would be mine. Half the house, half your future earnings." Her smile was cold. "Face it, Gabriel, you are trapped." The casual cruelty of her words left me speechless. This was not the woman I had fallen in love with. This stranger wearing my wife's face seemed to take pleasure in my pain. In the days that followed, friends tried to offer advice. Some suggested marriage counseling, though it was clear Stephanie had no interest in salvaging our relationship. Others recommended I simply accept the situation to avoid financial ruin. "Divorce is expensive," my friend Thomas warned during a private conversation. "She could take you for everything, especially with her new connections. Maybe you should just look the other way." The thought of staying in a loveless, faithless marriage made me physically ill, yet Stephanie's words about my weakness haunted me. Was I too cowardly to leave, too afraid of the financial consequences? The questions circled in my mind during sleepless nights while Stephanie came home later and later, not bothering to hide her affair anymore. The humiliation reached new heights when Stephanie invited James to a dinner party at our home. She introduced him as her colleague, but their lingering touches and private smiles made the truth obvious to everyone present. I played the role of gracious host while dying inside, serving drinks to the man who was sleeping with my wife. Later that night, as I washed dishes alone in the kitchen, I overheard Stephanie and James laughing about me. "He just stands there and takes it," James said. "I could never be that pathetic." Stephanie's response was worse. "That is why I am with you now. I need a real man, not a doormat." That moment, standing in our kitchen with soapy water dripping from my hands, became my breaking point. Something inside me hardened. The pain was still there, but now it was accompanied by a clarity I had been lacking. I would not be their joke any longer. I would not be the weak, pathetic husband who accepted his fate without fighting back. That night, after Stephanie had gone to bed, I sat alone in our home office researching divorce attorneys. I needed someone experienced, discreet, and aggressive. Money was no object. This was about protecting my future and my dignity. The attorney I chose, Caroline Anderson, had a reputation for handling high-profile tech divorces. Her consultation fee was steep, but her insights proved invaluable. During our first meeting, I laid out my situation completely, including the affair, Stephanie's threats, and my concerns about our financial entanglements. "First, we need to understand exactly what you are up against," Caroline said, making notes as we spoke. "Bring me all financial records, your prenuptial agreement if you have one, and any evidence of the affair." The prenuptial agreement we had signed was fairly standard, but contained a crucial infidelity clause that could limit Stephanie's claims if properly leveraged. Caroline also pointed out that Washington state, being a community property state, would typically split assets acquired during marriage equally, but exceptions could be made under certain circumstances. "Document everything," Caroline advised. "Text messages, emails, credit card statements, witnesses. We need to build an airtight case." Over the next several weeks, I methodically gathered evidence while maintaining a facade of defeated acceptance around Stephanie. I installed recovery software on our home computer that retrieved deleted emails discussing her affair. I documented the nights she did not come home and the expenses charged to our joint credit card for hotel rooms and dinners with James. Each discovery brought fresh pain, but I channeled it into determination. I would not let her destroy me financially after already destroying our marriage. During this time, I made a far more significant discovery. While searching for financial records, I found emails where Stephanie had shared confidential information about my company with James. His firm was developing a competing product, and she had provided internal marketing strategies and preliminary technical specifications that could only have come from my private work files. This was no longer just about infidelity. This was corporate espionage. After consulting with Caroline, I scheduled a confidential meeting with my company's legal team. The gravity of the situation was immediately apparent to them. They brought in corporate security specialists, who helped me gather additional evidence without alerting Stephanie. "This changes everything," Caroline told me after reviewing the new information. "We are not just talking about divorce now, but potential criminal charges and civil liability. My most valuable assets were my stock options, which had appreciated considerably. Caroline helped me develop a strategy to legally protect them by exercising some options before filing for divorce, converting them to shares held in a trust. The timing and structure were crucial to ensure everything remained above board. As these preparations continued, I maintained my role as the defeated husband. When Stephanie made demands, I acquiesced. When she flaunted her affair, I appeared hurt but resigned. I paid the credit card bills for her dinners with James without comment. Each concession reinforced her belief in my weakness. "See, I told you," she said one evening after I agreed to pay for her weekend trip with James. "You will never leave. You do not have the spine for it." Her certainty was exactly what I needed. The more confident she became in her control, the less she paid attention to my activities. She never noticed the meetings with attorneys, the secured storage unit, where I kept copies of evidence, or the strategic financial moves I was making under professional guidance. By the time all my preparations were complete, Stephanie believed she had me completely under her thumb. She had no idea that the tables were about to turn in the most dramatic way possible. The day I executed my plan began like any other. Stephanie left for work with barely a goodbye, expecting another day of my passive acceptance. Instead, I made a call to my company's chief legal officer, confirming that everything was in place. The legal team had arranged a meeting with executives from both companies ostensibly to discuss possible collaboration. James and Stephanie would both be there representing their marketing department. I would attend as a technical consultant from my company. Walking into that conference room was surreal. Stephanie's face registered shock, then confusion, then concern, as I took a seat across from her. James merely looked annoyed at my presence, clearly not understanding what was happening. "Before we begin discussing potential partnerships," our chief legal officer started, "we need to address a serious matter that has come to our attention." What followed was a methodical presentation of evidence showing that proprietary information had been illegally shared between the companies. Emails, text messages, and file access logs appeared on the projection screen, many featuring Stephanie's name explicitly. As the evidence mounted, James began to distance himself. "I was never aware of where this information came from," he claimed, looking at Stephanie with newly cold eyes. She assured me these were publicly available details. The betrayal that flashed across Stephanie's face was immediate. The man she had chosen over our marriage was throwing her under the bus to save himself. Her desperate glances in my direction found no sympathy. By the end of the meeting, both companies had agreed to handle the matter privately to avoid public scandal. Stephanie was immediately terminated, and James was placed on administrative leave pending further investigation. The legal consequences were just beginning, but the professional ones were immediate and devastating. That evening, Stephanie returned home in a fury. "You set me up," she screamed, throwing her purse across our living room. "You ruined my career." "No," I replied calmly. "You did that yourself when you decided to steal from my company to impress your lover." Her rage turned to panic when I handed her the divorce papers Caroline had prepared. The terms were clear: no alimony, a division of assets that recognized the corporate espionage situation, and a requirement to vacate our home within 30 days. "You cannot do this," she insisted. "I will fight you for everything. Feel free to try," I responded, my voice steady. "But before you do, you should know that beyond the corporate espionage evidence, I have documented every aspect of your affair. The prenuptial infidelity clause is quite clear. Additionally, your legal bills will be substantial, especially since you no longer have a job. The divorce proceedings were not simple despite my preparation." Stephanie hired an aggressive attorney who tried every possible angle to secure her a better settlement, but the evidence was overwhelming. The judge, after reviewing the documented infidelity and the corporate espionage situation, ruled largely in my favor. Throughout the process, I maintained my dignity. I never raised my voice in court, never made accusations beyond the factual evidence presented, and never sought revenge beyond what was legally appropriate. This restraint seemed to frustrate Stephanie more than anything else. By the time the divorce was finalized, the financial impact to me was minimal compared to what Stephanie had threatened. I kept my stock options, retained the house after buying out her portion at a court-determined fair market value, and paid no alimony. Stephanie, meanwhile, faced potential legal action from both companies and had become virtually unemployable in the tech industry. The emotional recovery took longer than the legal proceedings. For months after the divorce, I struggled with trust issues and questioned my judgment. How had I missed the signs? How had I allowed myself to be so thoroughly deceived by someone I loved? Healing began gradually. I reconnected with friends who had been sidelined during the worst of my marriage. I focused on my work, finding satisfaction in projects that challenged my mind and kept me engaged. I sold the house that held too many painful memories and bought a comfortable condo closer to downtown. The supportive circle of friends who stood by me became crucial to my recovery. Thomas, who had initially advised acceptance, later admitted his admiration for how I had handled the situation. "You did it with class," he told me during a hiking trip 6 months after the divorce. "No one would have blamed you for being bitter, but you took the high road." My professional life flourished in unexpected ways. The corporate espionage incident had brought me to the attention of senior management, who appreciated both my technical skills and my loyalty to the company. A promotion followed along with increased responsibilities that kept me challenged and engaged. Through this experience, I learned important lessons about self-respect and standing up for myself. Stephanie had been right about one thing. I had been weak, not in the way she meant, but in my willingness to overlook red flags and accept mistreatment to avoid conflict. The most valuable insight came from my therapist, Dr. Rivera, whom I started seeing during the divorce proceedings. "Setting boundaries is not selfish," she told me. "It is necessary for healthy relationships. Your worth is not determined by how much mistreatment you can endure." I carried these words with me as I cautiously re-entered the dating world a year later. My approach to relationships had fundamentally changed. I valued honesty and mutual respect above all else, and was unafraid to communicate my expectations clearly. When I occasionally heard updates about Stephanie through mutual acquaintances, I felt no satisfaction in her continued struggles. The desire for revenge had faded, replaced by a simple hope that she would find whatever she was looking for. The anger that once consumed me had dissipated, not because I had forgiven her actions, but because I had moved beyond them. The journey taught me that true strength is not found in enduring mistreatment or in seeking vengeance, but in having the courage to stand up for yourself while maintaining your integrity. It is about knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. If you have ever found yourself in a situation where someone has taken advantage of your good nature or betrayed your trust, I hope my story encourages you to find your own voice and strength. Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us deepest, but that pain does not have to define your future. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when it seemed easier to give in? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to respond.